The stage, the radio, the television, even the silver screen, Alan Bennett conquered all these media. Indeed, his popularity is a phenomenon, and he is one of the most widely celebrated writers of his generation. Making his name in 1960, Bennett escapes easy categorization, and few others have played cat and mouse with the media as skillfully or for as long as Bennett. His work reveals a complex man fully capable of discussing loneliness, longing, finding and not finding, and a deep understanding of single people, couples, and families, about happiness, unhappiness, broken dreams, and fresh starts. His ability to fully convey such deep emotion led to a fantastic career writing for every media imaginable. In order to understand his career, we must understand the man.
In May of 1934, in one of the ugliest and least attractive towns in all of England, a district to the west of Leeds, a family in that awkward, not poor, not well-off status that straddles the upper, working, and lower middle classes, brought Alan Bennett into this world. His father, a butcher, and his mother were profoundly shy, creating an environment of social discomfort in public places that rubbed off on their son. Nonetheless, Alan showed an interest in culture, attending weekly concerts by the Yorkshire symphony industry, perhaps the roots of the music that would later surface in his plays, just as religion surfaces from his religious upbringing. Alan was an extraordinary student, winning an opera scholarship to study medieval history at Exeter College. Before attending college, however, Bennett served 2 years of national service, where he studied Russian, which continues to be the subject of much conspiracy about his role as a spy.
At Oxford, Bennett explored performing and acting. Indeed, other interests overrode history, discovering in himself the ability to make people laugh. He did stand-up routines at Exeter's Junior Common Room. He became an instant celebrity within the university. By August 1960, he launched a revue with 3 other men who had never had theatrical ambitions at Edinburgh's Lyceum Theatre. Their skits, parodies, songs, and monologues revitalized British stage comedy. This work culminated in the Edinburgh International Festival Revue, known as Beyond the Fringe, launching Alan Bennett's career, as it introduced Bennett to an audience of national then international scale. Bennett is his hardest critic when discussing his contribution to the revue. In the introduction to the collected scripts, Bennett writes, "I look back on those years without nostalgia, remembering chiefly the frustration and embarrassments, the sermon apart, what did I think I was doing? Still, Beyond the Fringe continues to be one of his most famous contributions to the stage."
After his run with Beyond the Fringe ended, Bennett spent several years wondering where his talent should lead him. Bennett recalls a French professor at Oxford exclaiming, "Oh, why am I wasting my life in this God-forsaken hole?" At that moment, he saw academia as somewhat of a prison, realizing that all the straining and after secretariatships and debating societies was really training, a scratchboard for him to sharpen his own skills as a writer. He ultimately decided that life as a history don wouldn't do. Bennett acted in other people's plays and wrote for other people's television shows. He did not shy away from farce, transgressive obsessions with sexual misconduct, and the absurd misunderstandings arising from it. In the 1970s, Bennett moved from the stage to small screen, writing 10 plays for television. He sets his work in the north of England, where he was born and grew up. He knows the place, feels comfortable there, and expands into its folkways and linguistic patterns. Even at their most nostalgic, his early television plays are a bit gloomy, due in part to the hard times and economic failures of the 1970s. Indeed, the North relied heavily on heavy industry and coal mining, and the hard decade destroyed its economy. His work reflects England as a place that's small, class-ridden, and excessively ironic to begin with. By the 1980s, unemployment soared past the 2 million mark, and Bennett's work became increasingly dark, giving way to an absurdist comic perspective.
In 1982, Bennett wrote A Woman of No Importance, and it was an important step in Bennett's development, anticipating the format adopted for the 6 monologues of Talking Heads. That winning formula for Talking Heads, which became an enormous critical and popular success when it was televised in 1988, and has become perhaps the one work that Bennett is most identified with and admired for in Britain. Talking Heads, a series of monologues, aired on BBC television in 1988, and has since seen life on radio and theater as well. Most of the works shimmer with insights that go nowhere but keep the characters' nerves throbbing. The 6 episodes of the series are entirely different, but often return to the dark themes of loneliness, sickness, death, and guilt. 10 years later, Bennett returned to create a second series, Talking Heads 2, again 6 widely respected episodes.
At the same time that Bennett was building momentum through Talking Heads, he entered the world of cinema, writing his first screenplay in 1984, A Private Function. Like his earlier work, it was set on a simple framework of social ambition taking aim at the entrenched class structure, and was a complex and darkly comic web of interconnected ironies. Bennett gets his dark comic effects from the juxtaposition of the animal and the human, most tellingly in the way that the elderly are looked upon as disposable items, not unlike the pigs raised for slaughter. And the movie depicts an intensely physical world, but it's not a pretty picture. The film won 3 BFTA awards and earned Bennett a nomination for Best Original Screenplay and Best Film.
He approached the high point of his career and achieved more international fame as a writer for the movies and began to expose more of a kinship with his material. In his adaptations, he has begun to accept the autobiographical implications of his choices. The Madness of King George in 1995, a screenplay from his play The Madness of George III, beautifully handles the struggles of mental health and strained family relationships, and it was nominated for Academy Awards, Cannes Film Festival Awards, and BAFTA Awards. In 2006, Bennett again adapted one of his own plays with The History Boys, which won more awards, including a Tony. On April 8, 2010, BBC News reported that a performance of Alan Bennett's play The Habit of Art will be broadcast live to cinemas across the UK and Europe.
In all different mediums, the stage, the small screen, the silver screen, Bennett prefers the personal, the local, and the intimate over the theatrical and the doctrine, because the trust vision his works takes root in small delights, plain spoken decency, and self-respect for others. Bennett creates characters who either bore or destroy each other out of their love or loneliness in a country that has lost direction. In other words, Bennett does not try to live in, and therefore he does not bother to create, an idyllic fantasy. Indeed, this English playwright is a master of mood and social detail. Shy and hermetic, Bennett is a man of abdications, whose comic tones in the true note of stalemate and resignation in English society.